Hello friends, today I'm going to tell you about the movie Cool Runnings. The feed is based on real events. Jamaica, 1987th year. Track and field athlete Darius Benek runs through the whole city and is greeted by locals. The guy is going to participate in the 88th Summer Olympics in the 100-meter run. Now he came to support his friend Sled and his team of young racers. Pushcart competitions have begun. The sled pushes the homemade car off the slope while the boy gives it acceleration. Alas, the confrontation with other racers ends for a couple of accidents. They are carrying a puny kiosk at full speed. Darius tells his girlfriend how important it is for him to get to the Olympics. He dreamed about it and has been preparing all his life. It's time for the qualifying competitions. Only 4 athletes will go from Jamaica to the Olympic Games in Seoul. Next to Davis, some bald bully is winding himself up, and one good-natured runner wishes good luck to both Benek and the gloomy big guy. The start was given, and Darius had already started to pull ahead, but the good-natured man mowed down both him and the big guy in the fall. Alas, because of such nonsense, the young athlete lost the opportunity to get to the Olympics. And the president of the Olympic Committee gives the sprinter wonderful advice. Well, for example, try yourself in boxing now. Davis's father was also a famous runner, and in the photo next to him, the guy sees some white guy. This is Irving Blitzer, an Olympic medalist who once persuaded Benek Sr. to take up bobsleigh and now also lives in Jamaica. In 3 months, the Winter Olympics will begin, and an inspired Darius persuades Sled to join his bobsleigh team. And although the words ice and winter are shaking the Jamaican right now, he still agrees to support his friend. Together they find Blitzer. The fat man has just lost money on bets and is not in the best mood. They were surprised that he had 2 gold medals. They offer the man to become the coach of the first ever Jamaican bobsleigh team. The guys pestered the loose god for a long time until he clearly explained that he was not going to train anyone, especially in a place where no one had ever seen snow in his eyes. But the photo helps to convince Irving. He believes that printers make the best bobsledders, and Darius runs 100 meters 1/10 of a second faster than his father. Now 2 more team members need to be selected among the young athletes. With the help of an ancient documentary, Blitzer explains to the audience the basics of this exotic sport, but in fact it turns out to be a selection of terrible accidents, one of which even ended with the death of an athlete. When the lights came on, the auditorium was already empty, but a bald, angry runner named Yul Brenner was not deterred by the demonstration. He is ready to become at least a bean with a leaf, just to get away from the hated island. The clumsy runner Junior Bevel was the 4th to jump into the sleigh. However, at first he had to save his ass from an angry jock. Irving will have to work with such a team. So far, their bob or sledge will be a trough assembled from scrap metal. Irving distributes the guys and talks about their responsibilities. He appoints the sledge to be braking, but he protests because he was an excellent helmsman on his cars. But the helmsman is an extremely responsible crew member who works more than others, and the lives of the team depend on him. Therefore, it should be Darius. We learn that Junior is from a very rich family, and his father, tired of his son's sporting quirks, got him a job at a brokerage company. So far, the equipment of Jamaican bobsledders consists of all sorts of junk, and the first attempt to disperse the trough ended in failure. One of the guys is constantly lost during the run-up, and Bob eventually turns over. The female adapts to the cold in between. After a while, the Jamaicans learn to jump into a bean at least normally, but they manage it extremely clumsily. So much so that they even crashed right into a police car. When the policemen found out that they were bobsleighs, they just laughed. But they finally dispersed the sled in 6 seconds, the time that Blitzer set for them. Inspired by their success, the coach tries to get $20,000 of funding from the Olympic Committee, but the president refuses. He worries that Jamaica will look like a laughingstock at the games. Therefore, each member of the team gets money as he can. Senka sings on the street, Darius makes different sponsors laugh with his offer, and Yul earns $1 with each victory in arm wrestling. By common efforts, it is possible to collect only $200. The rest of the amount is dumped out of the bag by Junior, who sold his car for the sake of a common cause. So he apologizes for the fact that the guys did not get to the Summer Olympics because of him. However, Junior did it without his father's knowledge. Finally, the Miracle team arrives in Canada, but they are in no hurry to go out into the cold. Senka put on everything he had, and even a bag. Blitzer registers his team to participate in qualifying competitions. They need to show the result for at least 1 minute and 2 seconds. There he meets his old team, of which only one athlete shows a desire to talk to him. Erwin buys a sleigh from him for the remaining 5,000, and it's time for the Jamaicans to get acquainted with the ice. In the evening, Darius enthusiastically watches the training of the bobsleigh team from Switzerland. The athletes' movements are honed and synchronized. The guys were sure that they would get the same beautiful sleigh, but 5,000 was only enough for an ugly old wreck. At training, seeing the ancient unit, other athletes were stunned and even stopped their preparations. Having endured ridicule from the best helmsman in the world, Darius listens to the coach's latest instructions. With grief, Senka pulled the helmet over his dreadlocks in half. The Jamaican sleigh slowly begins its move, and after gaining speed, the sleigh screams at the top of its voice. Alas, the first race in their life ended before the finish. In the evening, in the hotel room, Senka roasts bananas and laughs at Yule's dream of living in a house that turned out to be Buckingham Palace. The big guy is supported by Junior, who likes his purposefulness. The more such young Brenners will achieve in life, the better it will be for the whole of Jamaica. The next day, the Jamaicans are preparing for the first real run-up, but alas, the sleigh went without them. These funny shots got into the newspapers and into the eyes of Junior's father. When preparing the sledge, one of the former bobsleigh players sat down to Darius and told him that in the 72nd their coach Irving was accused of fraud. He put a load in the sledge to increase their speed, and for this he was deprived of both gold medals. Junior receives a telegram from his father demanding to return home urgently, but for now the guys are sent to a local country club. While the sled is learning an outlandish dance, it's time for July to calm down his friend. At the same time, the helmsman from East Germany decided to mock the Jamaicans again. Dragging a timid friend to the toilet, Yul began to pump him morally so that he would not allow others to treat him badly. He motivated him by making him proud that no one would dare insult him by repeating these words loudly. And when they returned to the bar, they started a fight with the Germans. Senka joined them with joy. In the room, the whole trio is read out by the team leader, and Irving managed to get them out of the institution. But the Jamaicans should not be happy. Everyone here hates them. Therefore, from now on they need to behave quieter than water, lower than grass. They reinforce their physical training with theories, and after a while they begin to feel much more confident on the track. As a reward, Blitzer presents them with their Olympic costumes. It turns out that Irving's detractor replaces one of the judges at the qualification, and he informs that it is now necessary to drive the distance in exactly 1 minute to qualify. Copying the Swiss, the athletes count down the 1, 2, 3 and start. The frenzied speed became familiar to them, and none of the team members made a mistake. After the finish, their eyes are fixed on the scoreboard, which showed 59-46. Joyful Jamaicans painted the sleigh in the colors of their country's flag and decide what to call them. Tallulah suggests Junior, and everyone laughs at him because it sounds like the name of a cheap whore. But it turned out that was his mother's name. As a result, Davis calls Bob steep turns. And at this moment, the Jamaicans receive notifications of disqualification. Irving breaks into the office of the Olympic Committee right in the middle of the meeting. They explain their decision by the fact that the Jamaican national team has not participated in any international competitions before, and this condition has been in effect since this year. Irving suspects that this is how officials take it out on him for his offense of 16 years ago and still persuades. The committee does not punish his guys for it. At home, the Jamaicans are watching their team at the opening of the Olympic Games in Calgary. Exactly 20 years ago, Derry's father won a gold medal at the Summer Olympics. Instead of a speech, Irving utters a humorous rumor to get gold medals. At this moment, Junior's father shows up in the room, who right now wants to pull him out of the team and take him home. But remembering the installation from Yule, he was still able to say no to his father and stayed in Canada. The first of the 3 days of the competition has come. First, the favorites are the Swiss, then the Americans and Germans. The boys from Jamaica keep score with chalk on the board. Unlike the commentators, the Islanders do not consider their team to be outsiders. The Jamaican team is preparing for the first race. Darius, following the example of the Swiss, hits everyone on their helmets. The guys have a lot of responsibility because this is the first ever performance of the Jamaican national team at the Winter Olympics. Unfortunately, the team could not immediately jump into the sleigh. The transport itself is constantly beating against the sides of the track. With grief in half, they reach the finish line with a score of 58 seconds. The coach tells the athletes that they are too tense and constrained, so they need to try to relax. Sanka raises the issue of national identity and suggests not copying the Swiss, but also the Jamaicans. Therefore, the next day the guys behave like natural Rastafarians, have fun, and sing songs. The Jamaicans are much more collected today, and at the start they even managed to overtake the Swiss. Commentators also noted a dramatic change in their skills. This time their result was 56.5 seconds, and now they are in 8th place. In the evening, Dury asks the coach why he cheated, and Blitzer replied that he just had to win. He was always a winner and achieved victory at any cost. The last day of the competition has arrived. Even Junior's father joined the rest of the fans. And the commentators wore t-shirts in support. The guys got off to a great start. They were very confident on the track, but at the most inopportune moment they let down the old sled, which began to fall apart right on the track. Darius lost control and the four, turning over, crashed into the side. The inverted sled continues to ride on the ice for a long time, which tests the strength of the athletes' helmets. Finally, the transport stopped, medical staff is running to the Jamaicans, and then Darius decides that they must definitely finish the descent. All the spectators fell silent while four guys carried a heavy bob to the finish line on their shoulders. Proud athletes from Jamaica have earned universal applause, even from their enemies. The coach also congratulates the guys. Now a photo of his son, the captain of the first Jamaican bobsleigh team, hangs above the photo of Benek Sr. That's all for today. Put likes and write comments if you want more similar videos.